Welcome back to UPress Play, a student media sports show production. We are live streaming on OwlTV's YouTube, as well as live over the breezeway on FAU Radio. I'm JD, joined alongside me are Megan and Cameron, and today we have a special guest, FAU football alum and author, Brandin Bryant. Brandin, how are we doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. We're super excited to have you. You have a second book, sophomore book, release. Can I Pet That Dog? Tell us a little bit about that book.
So, Can I Pet That Dog? Can I pick it up?
Yeah, man. Show the people.
So Can I Pet That Dog? Second book here. This book is all about bite prevention and consent. Just wrote this book as a fun story for the kids. And, after the fact, after I wrote it, I realized that there was a huge issue being addressed in this book, which is bite prevention and consent. So the story goes back and forth between a kid and a dog. Kid trying to get as close to the dog as he can. The dog won't allow it. And then, at the end, there's a little surprise in there. They finally get along. So, I thought it was very important that I had that other book. So You Want to Be an Athlete was more of a somewhat of a serious children's book where it's a lesson to be taught and, like a roadmap for what it takes to be successful in football. And then this one is just, all laughs and giggles.
That's great. That's great. So like you said, this is your second book, your first book. So You Want to Be an Athlete, right? Tell us a little bit how it was different, publishing that first time, being a fresh author on the scene and, now having your sophomore book release. Tell us how it was different.
Yeah, I mean, the first one, don't get me wrong, it was fun, but it was a 4-year process because I didn't know what to do and I didn't know who to ask what I didn't know. So I wrote that initial book in 2020 during the pandemic. And I pretty much just sat on it for 4 years until, I finally just said, the heck with it. I can't figure out how to get traditionally published. I can't figure out how to meet these people to make this happen. I'm just going to do it myself. So then the second time around, I had the blueprint for it. I know exactly what to do. I can write the book and now I know how to self-publish the book. So, it's just anytime you do something a second time, it's much easier. So, same story with publishing a book.
For sure. And was there anybody like growing up, like a role model that made you feel like these lessons that you're teaching young children in this book, that this was something an important message to teach to the youth?
As far as like an author, or just in life?
Yeah, just in life and maybe as an author as well.
As far as publishing, no, I don't really know any children's book author, and that was another thing that was important to me to write a book. So kids that look like me or come from somewhere that I come from can see that it's possible that they can write a book.
Gotta hook you back up.
Gotta get back in there.
All good. That's how we do here, though.
We live.
If anything, you know what? You just want to hold on to that.
Yeah, I just hold it. But as far as the first book was So You Want to Be an Athlete, I've saw that story play out time after time after time after time. I've seen athletes who are better than me, who are great athletes who just can't figure it out academically, and they don't make it, or they give up. They're good, but they don't understand the work that it's going to take, even for parents out there. So I figured, why not put a story in my words to give to the next generation. And as far as this, like I said, I wanted this to be the complete opposite. The other one I thought was pretty serious. Like, if you want to make it, your dreams are on the line. Like, it's so intense. Like, if you want to make it to the NFL, the NBA, this is what you got to do. And that can be, a little, intense. So I was like, man, we got to have something else where it's just pure fun and games. And so that's what this is. But, the story of this one, man, it's no specific person that influenced the story, but I was influenced by another book called Don't Push That Button by Bill Cotter. And it's a book that just goes back and forth between a kid and a monster. I think it's called like Larry the Monster or something like that. And I wanted this to be very simple. I wanted it to be a back and forth, a repetitive phrase. That way, kids who are in third, second grade and younger, it's easier for them to catch on. They know, can I pet that dog? They see those same, 5 words every other page. They know that it's a repetitive phrase. I can read it. And that, from what I've learned from reading specialists, is that that's very important when teaching a kid how to read repetitive words and repetitive phrases, because obviously they're familiar with it.
For sure.
Brandin, in your books, topics like trust and determination come up. What kind of values were important for you to get across in your books?
One, growth mindset. I wanted growth mindset to be the utmost important, topic in that first book. I wanted that to be like, hey, you got to believe in yourself. You got to make it happen. And determination, because if you're determined, anything can happen. Like we just talked about with the book, right? I wrote it in 2020. didn't publish it until 2024. So that took pure determination, because there was a time where I was like, it's not going to happen, whatever. I'm just going to throw it to the side. I'm going to leave it in my files. But I was so determined to make this happen. And I think that, these are lessons that I've learned in sports, that, that anything can be done, but it's going to take a lot of effort. So I wanted to have that same message in the book. And it's funny now that you say it, that I'm thinking about it, like, this kid was so determined to pet this dog, and he was going to make it happen no matter what. So that wasn't really my intention for Can I Pet That Dog, like to teach a lesson of determination. But now that you say it, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's definitely another underlying story of this book. So, I think that's something that I live my life by. Like, it's not always going to work out how you plan it. It almost never works out how you plan it. Like exactly how you plan it. If you draw a map from A to Z, it's never going to work out exactly how you plan it. But to get to A to Z is possible. You have to be determined, and it may not go A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. But I can make sure I get to Z. So that was a long-winded way of saying that anything is possible, and that's what I want to put in my books. Anything is possible, but it's going to take a lot of effort. So a huge but in there. It's going to take a lot of effort, but it can be done. And I think that's kind of, more or less the definition of what, Dr. Carol Dweck describes as growth mindset.
That's such a great message that you're trying to portray through this book. So you just said that the style of it, Can I Pet That Dog, like the repetitive words, helps to teach children. Like, did you meet with the specialist beforehand to learn how to properly, or not properly, but how to write a book that really is going to teach someone English almost?
I actually went to the downtown Boca Raton Public Library, and I met with the leading media specialist. I believe that's what they call librarians now. So I met with the head librarian there, and she definitely gave me some tips. And one of my friends, good friend of mine, is actually a reading specialist in South Jersey in Atlantic City, and he gave me some tips as well, with just the repetitive phrases, simple words. And So You Want to Be an Athlete, I did have some higher level reading words that kids that age may not know, which is cool, because when you read to the kids and all of a sudden they get to the end of the book, maybe you're reading to second grade, and they're like, hey, what's a scholarship? And now it's a good educational point. Like, hey, this is what a scholarship is. It's probably the first time you've heard this word, but this is what a scholarship is, and we're going to talk about it. So I think, that was not in this book, because this book is so simple, but I don't want to, get away from using more difficult words in my future books, because at some point kids have to be introduced to new words, and that's something that I was told by the reading specialist as well.
Very cool. So you graduated at FAU with your communications bachelor's degree, played all 4 years here at FAU. I think something that people would like to hear about is what your personal experience was like being a student athlete, and if there's any lessons to any kids out there that want to kind of do the same thing and be a collegiate athlete. What was kind of like that student and athlete balance like for you when you were here playing at FAU?
That's a great question. So initially, when I came to FAU, I came here because it was unlike anything I've ever seen. So I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm from the Midwest.
The cold.
Yeah, the cold. It's snowing. I was at a junior college in Kansas at the time, and I come down here, and it's like 25 degrees in Kansas City when I fly to Kansas City International. And I come down here, and it's like 80 degrees, and the hotel's on Deerfield Beach. So it's like, man, this is, I've never seen anything like this. I want to come here. And then, when you get here, obviously, reality sets in and it's back to work.
Right.
You come into paradise, but being a college athlete is a very tough job. And I know we're not going to talk about it, but that's why I'm such a big fan of NIL, because it's
Absolutely.
It's one of the hardest things you can do. Like you guys are all collegiate students, and that's hard in and of itself, right? But then when you got somebody yelling at you all day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you're basically working 2 jobs, man, it's so difficult. So just, being in that point and being able to utilize the resources that FAU have was a huge help for me. Like, the staff over there in that athletic center has everything you need. Any question you might have, if you need a tutor or just advice on life or anything, you can go over there, ask somebody, and they'll connect you with someone who can help you. But it's definitely difficult as a freshman, and then you get used to it, just like anything else. You get into the groove, and you figure it out.
Yeah. I wonder what if you could remember, because I'm not trying to date you, but it was
way back.
It was way back. We over 10 years now, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you can remember, what walk me through your schedule, because I know the football players have to practice in the morning, so it's not super hot. I don't know if it was like that back then.
Yeah.
So walk me through your schedule when you're waking up until you're putting your head on your bed at night.
So let me touch on that for a second. So when I came in, it was the first time the FAU had a coach other than Howard Schnellenberger.
Okay, yeah.
And that coach, Carl Pliny, came from Nebraska. So I don't think he understood how hot it was down here. So the first couple of practices, I think we practiced at like 3 p.m. Mistake. Immediately he realized we got to bring those practices early. So we start practicing, before the sun comes out, maybe like 7, 8 o'clock, whatever it is. And then from that point, you go to practice, then you go to class, then you come back and you would meet. And then if you had a tutor or anything, you would do that. So it was like a real back and forth thing. School football, school football, whatever. But as time progressed, maybe my second, third year here, they kind of figured out more of an efficient system. We would meet in the morning, and then we would go to practice, and then we would go to class, and we would be done with football for the rest of the day. So you still got a packed schedule because it's obviously whatever you got these credit hours you have to fulfill. But it was a little bit of a relief seeing that once football is over, it's done. So I meet, go to practice, done with football. Now it's time to be a full-time student. But with that being said, now that's still like 7 to 4 or 7 to 5. It's still a long day, you know what I mean? But it's not that back and forth.
Yeah, for sure.
And I forgot, there's a strength and conditioning phase in there as well. So some of those days there will be a mandatory weightlifting session, usually directly after practice. So it's tough, man.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the grind. I think, when students are on campus and they see like a student athlete in their classroom, they're probably like, oh man, like maybe they're not taking class serious or whatever. But it's like your guys' schedule is crazy. Us being student journalists, we only get a fraction of a piece of what, your day-to-day schedule is like. So, as much as I would love to think I could be a college athlete, I don't think I got the makings for that. But yeah, I think we appreciate you coming on the show. Tell the people where they could find your book.
So you can find this book. You can find me at any given weekend at a local farmers or vendors market in South Florida. And I usually, pop out with the books and sell them. And then also it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, pretty much, every major online retailer that sells books. So check that out. And also brandinsbooks.com, which is Brandin with an I. And yeah, it's all over. So I appreciate your support.
And I remember you telling me that you have more series lined up. Is there any sneak peeks you want to give to the people, or they just got to stay tuned?
No, we definitely we can give you a sneak peek. So, So You Want to Be an Athlete? Like I told you, I want it to be a series that is exposing kids to different professions. So I want to ultimately have, so you want to be a journalist, so you want to be a doctor, so you want to be a coach, so you want to be a lawyer, so you want to speak Spanish. I got that one actually coming out soon.
Oh, okay.
So I got that one finished.
You speak a little bit of Spanish?
Poquito.
Oh, más o menos.
Más.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay,
mucho,
good,
yeah.
good.
Duolingo todos los días.
Ah, that's good. You probably know more than me. I'm Colombian, so
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah, I go Duolingo every day. I'm on like a 900-day streak right now.
Oh, fire.
So I wanted that. I finished that book. It's done. I don't have the illustrations, but I wanted that book to be kind of like to what my level of Spanish speaking is. Probably like third grade, Spanish speaking level. So I wrote that book, and that was super fun. I actually wrote it. I intended it to go to Duolingo. Like, wrote this book. Like, I'm going to pitch it to Duolingo. Another thing about determination, they never got back to me.
Oh.
So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna still do it, and I'm gonna put it back into this. So You Want to Be an Athlete. But yeah, I want to have all those different professions and exposures for the kids, and do some more fun books. And I want to do a book for FAU too. So I want to have a book. I don't want to say the title. I don't know who's out there, man. Might take my idea or something like that. But I do want to do a children's book for FAU. Just talking about life on campus, life in South Florida, life in Boca. And then I got another book about a kid who goes to the library on an accident, and he has the time of his life.
Wow.
So, I got those 3 books that are finished, just waiting to, get the illustration to bring them to life.
Trust in the process and staying determined.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming by on the show, talking a little bit about that. We're looking forward to the next book, and when the next book comes out, us at the UP will be there to cover it. So appreciate the time, man. Thank you. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut to a quick live read here, and we'll get into that. If you're interested in a career in media, come stop by the second floor of the Student Union to meet the 3 pillars of student media: OwlTV in room 231, Owl Radio in room 207, and University Press in room 214. If you're a journalism major, communications, marketing, or just looking for a cool community, check us out. UP General Meetings are Mondays at 2 p.m. TV general meetings are Fridays at 3 p.m. and radio general meetings are Mondays at 3 p.m. For more information, search FAU Student Media online. All right, and we are back. Maddox now in the seat. Welcome back. We're going to get into some FAU housekeeping. FAU football had their game against Michigan State on Friday. It was a Friday game?
It was Friday.
Friday night. Yeah, clearly not too, lots of reactions and takeaways. FAU lost to Michigan State 16-10 in what was a pretty tough watch, simply because it wasn't the offensive battle that we were looking for. Like Aiden Chow said, take the over.
Hope he's not a betting man.
I don't think he's allowed to be a betting man, which is really like the funny part of like that comment to say to take the over. I don't really know what like the optics are on that. But I hope you guys didn't, because it was a low scoring game. But Megan, you were there.
I was there.
You were there in East
Yeah.
Lansing. Wasn't too cold yet.
No, it was pretty hot actually. Like we were sweating walking around beforehand.
Yeah. So
But
tell us what that was like.
It was such a surreal experience. Like honestly, because I went to the Lions and Bucks games last year, and that was like 60,000 people, and then at Spartan Arena it was 70,000, and it was just insane to be in that type of environment and knowing like, college football isn't like the NFL, and it was just crazy because it was more insane, I felt like.
Oh yeah, the college games are definitely.
Yeah.
Even for
Just
like
the fans just get crazy.
but even for like a school, well, I'm not trying to hate on Michigan State, but like, I'm just saying, like, I
Yeah,
could see
no,
like
when
FSU
we
or Michigan.
when we were in line, the lady in front of us, she was talking to us, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm season ticket holders for 32 years, and she drives 2 hours to get there." So they have dedicated fans.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Big Ten
They
schools can get down with the SEC.
Yeah, like
The crowd size.
exactly. Like even the tailgating beforehand, like it was just crazy. The amount of like authentic and retro type of things that fans had.
Oh, like old school Michigan.
Yeah, like
thing.
old school logos and everything.
That always makes me jealous that like FAU doesn't have like throwback gear, because I love it so much.
I mean, we're so new though.
True.
So it's like to throw it back already. To have throwbacks already. That's like it's kind of a reach. But yeah, hopefully, maybe when we're alum, you know what I mean, 10 years down the road, we'll have some merch.
But as far as the game, I think JD kind of got my main point, is that the most frustrating part of it was you expected to go out there and see offense, and that was one of the worst offensive performances in recent memory that I've seen. If I didn't watch that Florida Miami game, that'd probably be the worst one I saw all weekend.
Oh yeah, you were there as well.
That was a beatdown, yeah.
Did you go as a Gator fan though?
For the day, which was not
Wrong
fun.
wrong day to be a
Right.
Gator fan.
I'm sorry for your loss, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we were all really excited in regards to FAU to see a new quarterback, see a pretty new stable of running backs and a bunch of new playmakers, and we just didn't get to see any of it. And I guess what the main thing you can point to was the protection. Cam Fancher was running for his life all night. From the first drive to that second drive where he took the safety, it was an odd play call to have him dropping back in his own end zone, but they took the safety, and I think that play really messed with his confidence, and we really didn't get to see him get comfortable all night by virtue of that and just running for his life. We only, like in spurts, I think there was a drive in the second quarter or the third quarter it was where, Fancher was able to drop back and push the ball downfield instead of just running for his life one play, running for his life next play. We saw them be able to move the ball, but it was just in very small spurts. And, the defense, as well as they did play, even a defensive performance like that, it's not enough when your offense is struggling like that. So that was my main takeaway. There's a lot to build on going into Army. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah.
No,
No, go ahead.
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay. So I think exactly what you said was that it's kind of hard when the line isn't protecting the quarterback to kind of get like a gauge of what you have, because I mean he was running for his life the whole game. So but I think there was just so many things that kind of were the reason for that recipe for disaster. Receivers weren't getting open, the line wasn't holding up, and then Cam wasn't making some of the reads. So we kind of, before that game, we're kind of looking at it like, all right, let's see what we got. And I think the main takeaway we know is that this defense is legit.
Yeah.
But from the offensive side, I think there's just still a lot of questions. And, I think the tune-up game will pretty much have to be Army, which is this upcoming Saturday.
Which is honestly good for them, I feel like, because Army runs. Like in their last game, I think it was 375 yards, and then they passed for like 75 yards. And our FAU's run defense, that was solid. Like they held Nate Carter, I believe that's his name. Last year, he was like Michigan State's go-to running back, and they held him to only like 45 yards.
And that 163-yard touchdown run, which if you take it, if you look at the stats, they were great against the run with that. If you take that away, that was such a stellar run defense. And I'm glad you bring that up, though, because when we spoke to Herman yesterday, I asked him, and he told me that it's not that reassuring just because schematically, what they were seeing against Michigan State, a lot of like off-tackle, counter power, it's completely different than what you're going to be seeing against the triple option against Army. So as reassured as I was by that defensive performance, like Herman said, I'm not exactly sure it's going to 100% carry over. Not to say that like, oh, they're going to go out there and just like get ran all over. It's not exactly going to carry over. They're going to get put to the test again this week. And I say that because, the offense can't like lag behind again. You know what I mean? They have to find a way to score points. It starts, like we said, with the offensive line. It starts with like receivers getting open. So yeah, it's going to be even though like you said, tune-up game, it's another real test this week, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think we ended up, predicting on our staff predictions that you can read on UPress online that the game was going to be more of a blowout than it actually was. And I mean, FAU had the ability to win the game. They had the opportunity for a game-winning drive.
The way that drive ended was brutal too, where we thought we had like a first down run and another 15 on top, and then they're like, never mind, not a first down nor a penalty, you lose. That was tough, but
pretty brutal. But I think the fact that it was competitive the whole time is something that you can kind of walk away with feeling good about. But I mean, obviously nobody wants to start their season with a losing record because now it's an uphill battle. But, honestly, this is a really great opportunity for them this upcoming Saturday, being that it's also going to be their first conference game. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And we'll be getting into that a little bit more in our show on Friday. But yeah, that's all we have for FAU football. Men's soccer, updates on that. Mamadou Diarra with a first half hat trick in their game against, looking it up here, should have had this pulled up.
I believe it was Stetson.
Against Stetson, yeah. Three goals before the first half, and then the game was unfortunately delayed due to lightning. But I mean, just absolutely incredible performance. And apparently, and shout out to our writer, Alexander Tabarez. This guy, Diarra, hat tricks come easy to him. Before he transferred to FAU, he had a 4-goal game. And with the, let's play elevator music. The Southwestern College, he had a game where he had 4 goals in one game, and he had another hat trick. 16 goals in 16 games, averaging a goal a game. So just an absolute stud. So shout out to him. I'm definitely going to have to check out a soccer game because I feel like after, Copa, World Cup, and then Euros, there was a lot of hype behind soccer. And I definitely need to get back into that. But just a little update on that. But most importantly, right, that we've been waiting for since February, first week or second week of February, whenever the Super Bowl was. NFL's back. We are back. We just cannot stress enough how much we're back. I think that's just that's all I've been seeing online and on Twitter, mostly in regards to like college football, where everyone's just like, man, we're so back.
JD ran Instagram comments like, we're so back.
Yeah, it's like 5 straight days. Well, before yesterday, it was like 5 straight days of football. It was beautiful.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely loving the way college football is like scheduled now, where there's a Thursday night game. There's a Thursday game.
That first week of college football, we feast from like Wednesday to Monday.
That USC versus LSU game. Did you guys have a favorite game over the week? I think mine was that one because I actually got to catch all of it. And that one came down to the end.
Watching Florida State lose on Monday was pretty awesome, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
That was pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, against Boston College. Yeah.
That was a really successful hate watch. That was one of my favorites.
You
But
don't like FSU?
Well, he's a Gator, so.
Oh.
I was gonna say,
it's been conditioned into me.
I gotta say,
not gonna
Bill
lie.
O'Brien, like his college football debut as a head coach, going against a 10 seed in their stadium and then winning by like 15 points, which I tweeted about, being like, do you consider this win because of Bill O'Brien's coaching, or for FSU and just them kind of shooting themselves in the foot? DJ, I forgot.
Ugalele. Is that his?
Well, what I noticed
There's
during
a
that
hit, like,
game is
missing
his
so
name
many
gets like
open
his name gets pronounced like differently every time someone says it. Like even the announcers, they're pronouncing it differently.
I think like you.
Let's not
like multiple.
Let's not
times.
even.
He missed so
Really
many.
struggled. A lot of people like pointed. Yes, he really struggled. That the supporting cast was not doing him any favors. I saw the stat. I think it was 7 drops they had, which is the most a Division I team has had since 2022. Like that supporting cast, and seemed like they gave up after a while too. So like, people were piling on him. That was a team loss. And the defense didn't look terrible, actually. I'll say it. Like that was before the season, like all these ESPN writers like Pete Thamel calling that like the best front 7 in the country. No, they were so wrong. That defense got torn up too. Like that was a team loss, not just on DJ.
Yeah, actually, I remember his name, the Uyagale.
I don't know if that's right
I
either.
don't think we're gonna go with that, but
I don't think that's
we're
right
gonna
either.
stick with DJU. But yeah, unfortunate for Florida State that ever since they got left out of the college football playoff, they've just had immense hangover. And understandable with the bowl game against Georgia that they had last year, the New Year's.
Well, I think that should have been a little bit of foreshadowing, that game, because everyone pointed to that game. Oh, they lost because of X amount of like north of 10, I think it was, draft picks that weren't playing. So like, they weren't just gonna like 10 more draft picks just don't come out of nowhere. They lost a lot of talent, specifically at quarterback. Let's just start there. I guess it's like rich for me to like look back and like say like, oh, we should have called that. But it's like they lost so much talent. I think they were kind of due, now that I look back at it, for like a regress a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough, like you said, when you lose all those, pretty much future NFL stars.
Yeah.
And I think
Which they lost a lot. I don't know the number off the top of my head. They had a lot of draft picks.
Yeah, and that's what's, sparking conversations about NIL, is because they brought in DJU to come in and replace Jordan Travis. And, we don't know the specifications about how much he's being compensated. But, for colleges to be bringing in these transfers, and it's sort of like on a contract deal, and you don't get the investment that you're looking for, it ends up backfiring, and now you're tied for him for the rest of the season, especially considering there's conversations of, well, do you start playing the backup? And it's like, well, that's pretty much the face of your franchise. So
yeah, that's something that Herman literally brought this up yesterday. Brought like literally said the word when referring to Cam Fancher, he's on scholarship and our collective's paying him whatever. So like that exact thought process is going through coach's head. And if it's going through head here at FAU, somewhere in the SEC or the Big Ten where their quarterback is getting paid a lot more, that conversation gets like tougher.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like how you see in the NBA where, like, let's say you have a guy on a max contract and let's say he just absolutely falls off the wagon, and then you got his backup who's on a way smaller deal and he's absolutely cooking. He should be the starter, but from a politics standpoint, it's like, well, we just signed him for all this money, so we can't not play him. We can't just have, I'm not saying that, like, if in NBA terms, we can't have 20, 30, 40 million dollars just sitting on the bench.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing with me being a Heat fan and Duncan Robinson being on that $20 million a year deal. We can't just not play him. But now with NIL, these things have kind of been different. But regardless of all those conversations, we're back.
We're back.
We're back for 14 weeks, I think it is, before we get into conference championships and bowl season and stuff like that.
Sounds right.
Because I think it's so lucky that it makes no sense to me that college football has 2 bye weeks and the NFL doesn't, considering the NFL plays a lot more.
Do they have 2 bye weeks?
I
Yeah.
think they do.
Oh, there's that week where it's like only.
Week 0 because
Army.
like
I would say at the end I'm saying there's the week where it's only Army and Navy, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
So, but that's not the only reason we're back. NFL tomorrow, Ravens versus Chiefs, kicking us off for the NFL season. Honestly, beyond excited. I always feel this way, like right after the Super Bowl ends. You really don't realize how long that gap is for football, for literally March, April, May, June, July, and then the only thing that we have to keep us entertained throughout the offseason is like rumors, wherever Aaron Rodgers is vacationing and taking ayahuasca. Like there's nothing besides the draft. The draft was cool this year, but I haven't really kept up with it as much as I usually do. But we're back. So one thing that we want to do on today's show, as far as NFL Week 1, is we're going to talk about how we think our favorite teams are going to do. I was thinking about this as I was like writing this topic. I like that we have like a very diverse panel.
We do.
I'm glad that we're not all just like Dolphins fans, because then it would just be like depressing.
I would say it wouldn't be much to talk about. I feel like
But yeah,
once the season's over.
yeah, we'll go from I guess my right to the left. Maddox, tell the people what team you're supporting this upcoming season, and what do you think their ceiling is, but what do you also think their floor is?
All right, so I'm going to be cheering on for the New England Patriots. And yep, Miami fans are really happy. So I believe that the floor will most likely be 5-12. Their schedule is not doing great. They're basically in rebuild mode. They got a young quarterback. Their defense is doing okay. A lot of veterans on the defense, but not so much like I don't see much upside, especially in the tough conference, tough division like AFC East and in the AFC. Really not any like wide receiver ones as well. But for the ceiling, I do have it being 6-11, so I feel like they got at least one game.
One game difference between the floor and
Yeah,
the
just
ceiling.
because.
He just knows what's gonna happen.
Look at the schedule. It's Jets twice, 49ers, Bengals, Jaguars, Colts.
You've just named all losses right there.
Yeah.
Dolphins, Bills. Like that's not really.
Okay, I'm gonna go. We're gonna rapid fire through this
Yeah.
through your schedule, because Cameron absolutely cringed in his seat when you said 5 wins. I believe it's Patriots.
Time out. I cringed because whenever he said 5 wins is their floor, I assumed that meant their ceiling is like 11 wins or something like that. So that's why.
But then he said 6.
But then he said 6. So I'm like, okay, actually maybe that's not.
Cameron calmed down once I knew that he said.
Yeah. Okay. You just. Okay, but
Yeah.
continue,
You know,
please.
I think that's pretty fair. But I'm looking at your schedule right now, and I don't see a possible win for you guys.
I mean, maybe the Bears.
All right, here.
So, like,
I'm 4th. I'm gonna.
You're just trying to make him more mad.
But I think the interesting narrative going into the season for your team is what's going on with Drake May. They already named Jacoby Brissett as the starter. So when do you think they're going to start ramping Drake May up? Because I had the conversation. There was a post, I don't know which publication or like blog it was on Instagram, but it was like, which quarterback do you think is going to be benched first? And Jacoby Brissett was on there. And my thought process with it was like, I feel like the second that man throws an interception, Drake May, get in. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Well, I feel like if that's like your thought process, and I was interested to like hear your guys' thoughts on this. If they're just gonna throw Drake May in there as soon as Jacoby Brissett makes a mistake, why wouldn't they just start Drake May? Because it's like it's Jacoby Brissett. It's not gonna take long for him to make a mistake. So like, what would be like the thought process behind that?
I mean, I don't know, Maddox. You know the Patriot way.
I'm just curious. What are your guys' thoughts if you have a rookie quarterback? You know, do you think it's better to just let him play and get that experience like Chicago is doing, or like let him learn behind someone else? Usually it's someone a lot better than Jacoby Brissett. And I'm just literally just curious.
Brissett, he was with that organization prior. Now he's with a different head coach, but he was with that organization prior. He had a lot of experience being a quarterback for multiple different teams. He's for his like age in the NFL, has a lot of experience with it. He can bring a lot of that knowledge to a young quarterback like Drake May. And myself and a lot of like Patriots like fans and analysts believe that most likely around September the 29th at San Francisco might possibly be when he starts. Because, I mean,
The
season,
San Francisco defense, is that who they want him to face first?
maybe, yeah. But again, they also got like after that they have the and that's gonna have the Jets, the Niners, the Dolphins, and the Texans. But I feel like starting the early season off with Brissett and like because you don't want to have May immediately start and him getting injured. Now you're out with the rookie quarterback. Have just
Good
go with
point,
Brissett.
but-
So again, this whole process, the whole team's on a rebuild mode basically. So you want to at least have your rookie quarterback at least like not get too injured, too banged up too early on. So almost every game in the schedule is against a really good defense, good team. It's not gonna be like any way be like, okay, this one game we can let him.
So you agree with sitting Drake May to start?
For a couple of games, yeah. So it'd be hard to decide when he will join, which game he will be a part of, because from the 19th all the way to the 27th is against teams with really good defenses.
Yeah, we're looking at the Seattle Seahawks, who just hired what's his name?
They're going to have a really good
Yeah,
defense.
yeah,
They got a
defense
really
there.
good secondary.
And then you're at New York Jets, which always
Really good defense.
Yeah.
At San Francisco.
Really good defense.
You're playing Miami at home.
Yeah, really good.
All right, defense. We'll get into that. And then you're at Houston, or you're against Houston at home. Another great defense. I think.
Well, honestly, now that we're looking at it, that's if like
The Dolphins.
I would say the
game.
Dolphins because, like you said, it's not even like does Miami have as good a defense as San Francisco, the Jets, Seattle, or the Bengals?
No offense.
And so if the season it goes crazy, but like if you start him that week 5, it's a game against Miami's defense, Houston, Jacksonville, before week 8 playing against a really good Jets defense.
So yeah,
It's a way to get like his feet wet. But I would just start him now. I think, whenever you draft a player that high and then be like, never mind, you have to prove yourself. I think that like kind of nicks their confidence a little bit. I don't think it's like anything fatal, but I think like whenever you like take a guy that high, it's obvious like you are getting the keys to our franchise, and then when you don't start him, it's almost like not second guessing, but like almost like you're not as confident. I think there's an argument to be made, for like letting a guy sit. Like take a look at Jordan Love. He's like the perfect example. Sat behind Rodgers for 4 years, and now he's like a top 10 quarterback. It obviously worked out for them. But again, like that's Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love was not the pick that Drake May is. Like Drake May is their franchise guy. I just think it'd be good for them to start him.
Do you feel like they want him to watch like the Patriots offense from the sidelines so he can really kind of see, okay, this is how it runs? Because it's obviously different when you're watching
definitely.
film.
Yeah, definitely. I get that's 100% like their thought process. It's just like if I was the coach, I don't think, sitting on the sideline and watching Jacoby Brissett, NFL player, but, not a top 30. He's like a bottom 32, below the 32 mark quarterback.
A historical backup.
Right. He's a career backup. I really don't see what sitting behind him for 4 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever it may be, or a drive, I guess, if that's what it is. That's not the same as sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for 4 seasons.
Yeah,
So I just don't. I think he's gonna get in. If we're gonna talk about like what he's gonna get out of, he'll get more out of 4 weeks playing than he will 4 weeks watching.
I can see that perspective. However, like again with New England, there's a new head coach, there's a new era in New England for football.
Exactly. So just
There's a new quarterback. So you really don't want to do is like jumping in too early because they're trying to like meticulously.
Isn't a clean
make
slate?
as
Wouldn't a
team.
clean slate be like the best thing for a rookie quarterback to start with?
But like, but I feel like it's a great way to understand with new head coach Gerard Mayo being like, okay, we got these couple of quarterbacks now on this team, new guys. I don't want to be like, okay, you're our first round rookie pick. We're having you the starter. Now you got to prove yourself. In that way, they kind of build character. We want you to know this whole formation is also like a very new offense as well. So we want you to learn along with this veteran guy and prove yourself in the ways, because he said like nothing's given. You have to prove yourself. So I
think that's concerning though. I think if the only reason they haven't, or the only reason they don't want to start him is because he hasn't proven himself. If you can't beat Jacoby Brissett for the starting spot. Now I'm not saying that that's the case. I do think to take both of what you guys are saying, like I do think I am of the opinion that you should play him week 1, but I do also see where Maddox is coming from, where you don't want to necessarily shatter the confidence of your quarterback, especially having to deal with your first game is going to be against Cincinnati. This is a really tough schedule for any quarterback, regardless of if you're the number 1 overall pick or the number 3.
It's also they have the Patriots have probably like
the worst receiving core.
I didn't want to say the worst. I was trying to figure out
wide receiver 1. Oh golly. I don't even recall it. I just know we have Patriots have, I think they still have Kendrick Bourne.
Oof.
They have Tyquan Thornton, Javon Polk, who's a rookie, Keyshawn Boutte,
a bunch of guys, just a bunch of guys.
I would say so. I think it's safe to say bottom 3 receiver core. Depending on what you think about Ramondre Stevenson, you could lump in their entire supporting cast. It's not good. A lot's gonna fall on the quarterback, which again it was just get him that experience right away. But not to stay on the Patriots too long. In your opinion, is Drake May their quarterback of the future?
I don't think so. I think he'll be leading the team to the right way because everyone's like, oh, franchise quarterback. I don't know, too early on to say that just now. But again, looking through the schedule, it's one of the most difficult schedules for a team in rebuild phase to face. And so, even if you don't go for the 49ers, maybe the Dolphins, I do feel like Drake May has earned his spot, but right now they're just their position is let's try to ease him into it a little early on so you'll at least see a little bit how this team's going on, how the offense is looking, offensive formations, learning from this guy, again, career as a backup quarterback, but has experience with different, has multiple years of experience playing in the NFL and learning from different quarterbacks and playing with different teams. So learning from him, maybe going against the Dolphins on October 6th, maybe against the Texans October 13th, maybe that, but again, because you were saying the beginning of the schedule is really difficult. The only way he could possibly go against a team that doesn't have that great of a defense would be November 3rd against Tennessee. I don't think
I would say
if your quarterback go too early on, too late in the season.
Yeah.
I feel maybe Miami or maybe San Francisco could be kind of suicide for him against San Francisco's defense. But just a couple of weeks to just understand the flow, see how the team's looking, how the offense is looking. Because again, they also have a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, new everything. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't even see 3 wins on this schedule, but as a fan, I would be the same way. I haven't. It's been a while since I dealt with a rebuild. But yeah, all right. We'll see how we're looking at the end of the season with that floor and ceiling.
Yeah.
Should we stay in the AFC East?
Yeah, might as well. Me, the resident Miami Dolphins fan. For their floor, I have them going 9-8 and missing the playoffs, and then for their ceiling, I have them at 12-5 and the number 1 seed at the AFC East. So obviously, very stark contrast, but just with this Dolphins team, if we're just gonna stay at the division games, they'll sweep the Patriots. No offense. It's just historically, that's just what's been happening. It's never been like that, so we have to take it while we can get it.
You're savoring this moment as a AFC team is
Yeah, while the Patriots, we're going to beat up on you guys while you guys are at a down point. We're going to sweep the Patriots, probably split with the Jets now. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, I think that's a pretty scary team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got swept by the Bills. So I just think there's so many questions with this team. Tua's playing on a new contract. Now at that point, there's no excuses when you're a $50 million quarterback. And a lot of the questions that we had last season still aren't answered. Can he play in those big games? Can he play against teams with winning records? There's a lot of really good teams, on this schedule. They're gonna have to see the Titans again, which was pretty much the beginning of the end for their season last year. So I think it all depends on how the offense can really take it to that next level in the games that matter and against the teams that are going to be good. And then the defense, I feel like right now they just have to survive. They're still waiting on Jalen Phillips, who's recovering from an Achilles. Not sure if he's going to be ready for week 1. Bradley Chubb, who is probably not going to be ready till the middle, maybe towards the end of the season. And we lost a bunch of guys. Van Ginkel, who was one of our starting linebackers, he's gone. We lost Xavier Howard, one of our starting corners. So it's really going to have to be a battle of attrition and who's going to be available. So that's why I have them at 9-8. You know, I still see them having a winning record under Mike McDaniel because they're going to take care of the teams that are bad. But there's not too many teams that are bad on their schedule this year. So
Not in that division.
so yeah, I could totally see them missing the playoffs. You know, especially with the Jets being back. But I could also see them, you know, taking care of business. I think that real test is going to be that second game of the season against the Bills, especially a short week, Thursday night game, and it's at home. So I think if you could take care of business there, you know, you're looking pretty good for the rest of the season.
I was gonna say, like, looking at the very end of your schedule, you got at Green Bay, against New York, at Houston, against San Francisco, at Cleveland, at New York. So later in the season, a Southern team, a South Florida team, going up north to play the Jets in Cleveland and in Green Bay. Different weather conditions, even though again there's some players on the team that like played and were born in like colder states, but still like going from that environment to a colder environment. Those are some good teams with great
That
good
Cleveland
defenses, great
game
offense.
at Cleveland is Sunday night too. That's gonna be brisk.
Yeah.
Son.
So I mean, like, I feel like if you guys like after that New England game, that full stretch, I'm gonna be praying for you guys because that's gonna be
That
some
is
difficult game.
It's definitely a difficult stretch, but that's what I'm saying. Like if you're looking at the rest of the schedule,
Yeah,
you got to
Raiders.
take care of business against the Raiders, against the Patriots.
You
I
better win against the Cardinals. You
have
better
to
win.
win against the Cardinals. I think the Colts, that's a win right there. Titans has to be a win. And then, you know, you could probably squeeze by the Rams, squeeze by the Seahawks, squeeze by the Jaguars, but
Maybe
it's
get one. Do you think they get a win against like the Bills? Like I mean, early on, second game is against Buffalo. Get a win against.
I feel like
confident.
I feel like you kind of like
You have to.
you have to win that game. It's not like that
That's
sounds
going against-
stupid. Like a week 2 game on Thursday night is like a
no, but it was
must-win-
like
a must-win game.
it was like that last year.
Because like I'm glad Maddox like brought that up. Like
That's
you don't want to be going into week 13 like having to go like needing to go like 4-2 in that stretch just because like you know Miami's 2 biggest problems were 1, can they play in the cold, and 2, can they like beat playoff teams. All of those games are going to be cold weather games. It seems like 4 of the 6 are going to be cold weather games playing against what I think are going to be playoff teams. You know, Houston's probably going to be a playoff team. San Francisco's going to be a playoff team. I don't want to make any conclusions about Cleveland, but New York, they're going to be in the playoff. They're going to be in the playoff team. So those 4 or 5, because you played New York before that. So 4 of your last 5 games are teams we're going to assume are going to be in the playoffs. So that makes these kind of chump change games, no offense, Maddox, against Tennessee, against New England. Those are like almost like must-win games. So it's definitely a prove-it year for Mike McDaniel. 1, because it's year 3.
Year 3 now.
And at the beginning of his tenure, all we heard about is like the Shanahan tree. He does everything so much differently. I think now is like a prove-it year. Okay, now win now. Same thing with Tua. It's year 4, 5 for him. It's time to win. You know, it's like they're both of those guys are almost like not on the hot seat, but like kind of running out of excuses.
No,
So
and
it's a
I think
prove-it year for them.
yeah, the fan base is definitely getting tired of excuses for sure. I know obviously I'm like a younger fan, so I didn't have to experience like those really bad years, but I do remember when like Ryan Fitzpatrick was our quarterback and like when we had Tannehill. So those were some really rough years, but I think if you go into those last 6 games of the season, at least 2 or 3 games above 500, and you can at least split those, you know, doing the math, my floor has them at 9-8, my ceiling has them at 12-5. If they could go, well, what is it, 10-7 now? Or yeah, because I get confused with the extra game. If they could go 11-7 or
11-6.
11-6, thank you, or 10-7, that's maybe, hopefully, enough for a wild card spot. But
do you think that this Dolphins team could be better than the Chiefs being the 1 seed? Do you feel like that team? Because I know the ceiling, like.
is your question that are the Dolphins going to be better than the Chiefs?
I'm saying like
No.
What
kind of question is that?
Ceiling's like, I mean, the number 1 seed, 12-5. That's their ceiling.
Oh no,
Like,
the
so
number
you
1
go-
seed in the AFC.
Oh,
East.
I thought you said the
No.
AFC.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you
I was assuming AFC as well.
I was like, okay.
Okay, say win
Y'all
it, win
weren't
the division.
listening.
I didn't think that Taylor was going to happen. The Chiefs were going to be going down.
I thought I would say win their division.
Yeah.
I assumed you meant like number 1.
Number 1 seed in the East.
Okay.
Yeah, number 1 seed in the East. Yeah, they'll win the division. That's where I have them at their ceiling. But I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm gonna assume most of our viewers are Dolphins fans, locals. So be rooting for them hard. I got to make it out to the game. I don't think I've been to an NFL game. I didn't go at all last season. I think my last game that I went to was against the Ravens. And that was like, I think it was a Thursday night game. It was 2 seasons ago. Absolutely fun time. I'm going to have to try and come out. Megan, all the way from the D, tell us how the...
I'm so excited for this season, but I think that their floor would be like 10-7.
Wow. Whoa.
What?
Oh, no, keep going.
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
No, keep going.
And then their ceiling. Now I feel like I'm gonna get
No, you're
Go
good.
ahead.
You're good. Let her cook.
14-3.
14-3.
I'm gonna say 17-0.
No.
I mean, that's not crazy. They were an NFC championship.
They were
team.
1 win away from going to the Super Bowl. The thing that just makes me nervous is that 2 of our players that we like consistently utilized last year, Laporta and Gibbs, are both questionable as of now. They said that they're both going to play, but going into a season with already a questionable injury and being 2 of like our stronger offensive players makes me really nervous. Another thing is just I've grown up a Detroit fan. Like they haven't had a season.
Yeah, you know
I know,
hardship.
like they haven't done this well in my lifetime before, and that makes me so anxious because I feel like
You think you're gonna get your karma?
well, we don't have.
It's like
That's the thing.
waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Well, just because I know that we're gonna get like every team's best game this year, and we also, I just, it's happened where players, they let kind of the fame and like the expectations get to them, and it's making me anxious going into the season because of that and just like the emotional aspect of it. And their schedule, like I said, they're going to get tougher games. But looking at their first 4 games before their bye week, I think that all 4 of those are definitely winnable.
Yeah,
like they should beat all 4 of those teams. That's like, I'm just going to straight up say it, especially like they're playing LA at home. And it's an 8:20 game like that.
Rematch of last year's playoff game.
Yeah, it's a rematch. It's
That's
going
my
to be
game.
insane. And especially, it's my game of the week too. Not just because I'm a Lions fan, but I mean, yeah, kind of. But also it's like a huge deal. Just like Stafford being back in that environment.
And that playoff game last year was so good, bro. Like,
yeah, it was.
Stafford was hooping. That was such a good game.
That game's going to be amazing.
Wasn't that the game where like he like took the shot to the head and he was like out cold and he still finished?
Yes,
I'm gonna say
because
that
the Lions, one of the defensive players like kind of walked over him, and it was like a whole thing. They were like, "Why are they treating him like this?" And
Stafford, if I remember correctly, there was a terrible call on a Stafford dime that like kind of screwed over the Rams in that game. I'm trying to remember, but I just remember it was such a good game.
It'll never be as bad as Rams Saints in what was that, 2019?
I think.
Yeah.
Or was it 17? Was it 19?
I think the reason we reacted to your floor.
what, you thought it was too low?
No, your floor. I thought it was too high because I think.
I don't think so.
Here's what I'll say. You are the best team on the panel, right? If we're looking at the Bears, the Lions. Listen,
I think in the NFC, they're definitely if they aren't in the top 4 teams of the NFC, then they had a unsuccessful season.
I think 10. I don't think 10-7 is crazy outlandish. Just because, like we said before, they were not only an NFC Championship team, they were like up 28-0 or something like that in the NFC Championship. And I think, I know it hurts, but I think they got better over the offseason because, I think the one thing that stood out to me that they needed to improve was their secondary. And they really targeted, I think their 2 highest draft picks were Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rackstraw. They're both DBs. It's somewhere they went after in the offseason. So I think they got better from a team that was, at one point in the NFC Championship looked like a Super Bowl team. The one thing, though, is, bro, they play in, what I think is probably the best division in football.
Yeah.
In the NFC North.
No. The
because
AFC North?
Your team's making
NFC North. Chicago's going to be a much better team this year. We just saw the Packers won a playoff game by a lot last year. What we're saying is an NFC Championship team in Detroit. And, the Vikings, I guess, will be what they'll be with whoever their quarterback ends up being. But they're usually a team that knows how to win games, at least in the regular season when Kirk Cousins was there. What's a deeper division than the NFC North?
The Ravens, Cleveland Browns, the Steelers, and the Bengals.
Steelers not gonna be good.
Bro said the Steelers.
Listen,
Bro said the Steelers.
we'll have to get into that another time, but I think you deserve to have high expectations as a Lions fan, being coming off an NFC Championship appearance. There's definitely 10 wins on this schedule. But I mean, I wish my team's floor was 10 double-digit wins.
You wish you could say that.
Yeah, right. But not to rush you along camera, but we're coming to the 5-minute mark. Let the people know where you got the floor and where you got the ceilings for the Chicago Bears and why.
I think floor probably would be about like 7 and 10. Just because, like I said, they play in a really, really good division. And as much as I'm bought in on Caleb Williams, he's a rookie quarterback. We have no idea what he's going to go out there and do in a real regular season NFL game when he's got 60 minutes of dudes coming after him. We don't know. That's what the floor. However, I think the ceiling, because I'm bought in on Caleb Williams, I think is 11 wins, winning their division, I think.
Winning the division.
I think, yeah.
Over Green Bay and the Detroit.
I think so, yeah.
Wow. Oh, I just put 2 and 2 together. We got 2 division rivals right here.
Oh, that's true. Well, just because of how good the Bears' defense was last year, if you look at the stats, after they got Montez Sweat and Eberflus started calling plays for their defense, they were a top 5 defense in the NFL. So by virtue of that, they're going to be in a lot of games. And, I was bought in on Caleb before the preseason. Watching him in the preseason, he looks like a guy who's going to be able to step into any NFL offense and make it look really good. And I think it's really going to work for him with a really great supporting cast at receiver, a really good running back room, I think, and an offense that's going to be encouraging him to push the ball downfield. So I think all of it probably, if it works together, yes, 11 wins, they win the division.
I mean, also, last season, you guys, I think, didn't start off that great, but, ending the season.
We're a fringe playoff team with Justin Fields as our quarterback. We were going into that.
They got the first overall pick as well. I feel like that and looking at the schedule, I mean, for your bye week, I feel you guys could get 4 wins.
They should beat Tennessee. They should beat Tennessee week 1. I think Caleb Williams' coming out party is week 2 against Houston. I think that's when the world finally wakes up.
Yeah, but, I mean, I definitely do feel like
Indianapolis, that's a winnable game. I don't know about Los Angeles. I don't know. They're going to beat Carolina week 5, Jacksonville. So there's a very good chance, they're going into the week 7 bye 4-2.
Yeah,
very seriously.
Just for a second time, there's a lot of other teams on the schedule that playoff teams, but also a couple other
just because of their division
against teams that are definitely going to be top 5 picks or whatever the next.
Those Green Bay games are going to be games, but I'll tell you, I'm not even saying this just because Megan's sitting here. Detroit really doesn't scare me. I'm so
we
serious.
can't be unpacking these topics minutes before the show starts. You want beef right now.
The Bears should have been 2-0. The Bears should have been 2-0 against the Lions last year. If it wasn't for a monumental Justin Fields collapse in the fourth quarter of that game, the Bears would have been 2-0 against the Lions last year.
So you fully think the 2 matchups that we have, the Bears are going to win both?
I don't think they're going to win both. They'll definitely win one of those, I think. They'll win the home one, I think.
Well, yeah, one's fair. That's why I think they're going to go 1-1 in those 2 games.
All right, we're in the red. We're in the red.
Out of time, I guess.
At the end of the day, all I know is we're back. We're back. Clap it up for NFL. We're back. Maddox, Megan, Cameron, where can they find you guys?
They can find me on Instagram at MaddoxBlade04 and on Twitter at Maddox Greenberg.
You can find me on Instagram at jd.delcastillo and on Twitter at jd_delcastillo.
You can find me on Instagram, Megan_Bruinsma, and then Twitter, Megan Bruinsma.
You can find me on Twitter at CamPriester247.
We'll have our next show Friday, 4 p.m., same time. You can watch it live on OwlTV's YouTube. We're also broadcasting live over the breezeway on FAU Radio. Shout out to everybody that helps with the production. And we'll see you guys Friday.
Peace.